What's up, everybody? Welcome to Space Marine Sampler. This is where I take a very casual, at-a-glance style look at a particular Loyalist Space Marine force. I go over, of course, what they look like, a bit about their lore, some thoughts on building and painting them, whether you want to collect some models or make a whole army, and really focus on discussing them in operations mode for Space Marine 2 because that co-op mode is a lot of fun and we can represent just about anything we want in there because we can really customize the different classes to look really cool. So for this edition, as you can tell by the title, you know what it is, but I will say I didn't even think to do this initially because I somewhat assumed that they were either already in the game or would be because I'm so used to the Crimson Fist just being around. So the fact that they're not actually officially in Space Marine 2 yet and probably won't get there, I was actually kind of surprised, so I decided to tackle that and rectify that situation. I say they probably won't be only because we already have the Black Templars, which are a very well known, the more well known successor to um, the Imperial Fists. And the Imperial Fists got a champion model for the tactical class. And typically, when that happens, it happens alongside successors, but it happened in the Trigun update alongside the Space Wolves and their champion model and them getting a bunch of stuff to unlock. So I don't think we're going to see any Imperial Fist successors anytime soon. So let's rectify that, right? But first, let's talk about the Crimson Fist a little bit, going off, or not going off, starting off, that's the term, starting off with their color scheme. So the Crimson Fists, as I mentioned, are a second founding successor to the Imperial Fists, and they are basically predominantly, by a large degree, this dark blue color. I believe the paint color is still referred to as Cantor blue, if you actually buy a paint pot of it. It is, I'm not going to say it's a super special hue of blue because I'm sure you could make this yourself, but it does stand out as being different from a lot of other blue Astartes forces, Loyalist or Chaos. So that is pretty cool. That is the color for the entirety of their armor. All Astartes, all full-fledged Battle Brothers, have one red hand of their armor. One of the hand armor pieces, typically I believe the left hand, is done in red. Veterans have both their hands as red. And this is quite literally their Crimson Fists. So that's a pretty cool feature. Their chest emblem is like a silver. Their weapons are black. Their helmet lenses are red. Their chapter symbol is the exact same thing as the Imperial Fist chapter symbol, only instead the circle outline and the fist are red. Now you can do that on the Cantor blue background of the shoulder pad itself, but the way I like seeing it is having the inside of the circle surrounding the fist be black. It just makes the fist stand out a bit more, kind of like having the white background for the fist on the Imperial Fist symbol. In any case, it is basically the exact same thing and looks really cool. Their squad markings are also done in red and done the same way, or showcased in the same way, of being in like a red circle with a black background inside that circle. You don't need to do that necessarily. You can just have the standard squad markings and just paint them up in red if you so desire, but it is kind of some food for thought. And that is, if I didn't say it already, the weapons are black. I think I said that, but that is basically it for their visuals. Everything else is just kind of typical accents and ornaments and whatever else. Now, with that said, it is a color scheme that once you see it, you instantly recognize it, particularly because of one or both hands being red. Now, when it comes to miniature painting, anybody that has a power fist, I feel like you're obligated to make that power fist red because typically those are a veteran in some capacity. Typically, not always, but regardless, it just looks too cool not to have the massive power fist be crimson. So you typically see that all the time. Now, with that said, the Crimson Fists are a survivor force. They've been brought to the brink a couple of times, most notably on Rin's World, in the tragedy of Rin's World. It wasn't party time excellent. Rin's World was attacked by a massive orc force. And in defense of that planet, disaster struck. It basically was their, and still kind of is their chapter homeworld, But disaster struck because their fortress monastery, which contains the bulk of their gene seed and the bulk of their forces, for defense, whatever, because the world was besieged, and also uh, basically is what coordinated the defense satellites as well, was struck by a wayward planetary defense missile. These are massive missiles designed to go into space and hit enemy warships. Something happened, one malfunctioned, and it crashed down right on top of the fortress monastery, blew it apart, destroyed everything, disabled the defense satellites, and killed off most of the space marines stationed in the fortress monastery. I think less than 20, including the chapter master, survived from the fortress monastery, meaning the total amount of Crimson Fist defenders alongside the rest of the militia and everything else there was less than 400 for the actual Crimson Fist Astartes present after that happened. This is a very dire situation, and the reason I'm going over this is very noteworthy of the Crimson Fists and how they are. They are survivable, they are tanky, which is a weird way to say it, but like they choose survival. So Pedro Cantor is faced with two options in this situation. Things are not looking good. They basically can't win. They can hold out and survive, but they can't win. So you can either go out in a blaze of glory, last stand style, and be entered into the halls of legend, but no longer exist, or you could do the second option, which is a tougher option for a lot of masters to pick, and that is to survive, take the L, realize survival is more important, split up, not split up, but get your forces gathered and deploy them in ways to defend the world as best you can and stall and delay for eventual Imperial reinforcements to show up, which is what they did, and that's why they're still around. Pedro Cantor is hailed as quite the leader, and having the wherewithal to choose that option over a vainglorious last stand, and that's why we still have the Crimson Fists in the lore of 40k in their timeline. So that's really cool. Now, when it comes to collecting these guys, if you're going to do some models or an army, it's really nice that their symbol is exactly the same design as the Imperial Fist symbol, because anything that has that sculpted detail on there, be it just the fist or the whole symbol or whatever the case is, can apply to Crimson Fist. Just paint it up in Cantor Blue and the red, right? And you have yourself Crimson Fist bits just like you would have Imperial Fist bits. It's fantastic, actually. It's really nice. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, in Space Marine 2, that doesn't work for the Imperial Fist Tactical Champion choice. It can't be modified, but it does make it easy to represent these guys in Space Marine 2 because their symbol is just like the Imperial Fist symbol, and yes, the Imperial Fists are obviously in the game. So you have to unlock the Imperial Fist chapter, basically, and then you have to unlock the Cantor Blue, which I forget how you unlock it or if it's just already there and not needing to be unlocked. Regardless, once you get the colors you need, you can pick whatever class you want, and you just make all of the armor that Cantor Blue, and you pick the Imperial Fist symbol, and then you modify its colors so that you have the red circle, the red fist, and I like putting the black background in there. I just think it makes it look cleaner. Now, for me, just to have, for ease of sake, I put the symbol on both shoulder pads just because, right? I figured whatever, it'll look good that way. That's not technically what they do, but it's fine. You can just make the standard symbol look red and be fine with that for a squad marking. Just make sure you get your chest emblem silver. You can't really do anything about the weapons, but you have yourself a Crimson Fist in short order, very easy, and you can get about dishing out vengeance. Don't forget to do one of the hands in red, and that's something we can do now. The Trigun update didn't only give us the ability to change the color of the robes for the bulwark, for example, like I went over in Angels of Vengeance episode, but it also gave us the ability to paint up just the hands of the arm a different color from the rest, which would have been great when I was doing the Raptors for their original color scheme, but it works out really good here because Crimson Fist have one red fist or two for a veteran. I opted to make what I do for Crimson Fist a veteran, so I give them two red hands. As far as what class to go with, honestly, any can work just fine. Personally, for me, I don't know why this is, but when I think Crimson Fist, I think heavy bolters. I just do. So I went with a heavy to represent the Crimson Fists. But you can go with anything you want. The Crimson Fists are stalwart defenders of the Imperium. They are Rogaldorn's successors, so they have those similar traits, and they do adhere closely to the Codex Astartes. They fight more like the Imperial Fists fight in that regard, only they're less, about not pure defense. We know Imperial Fists are really known for siege, and specifically siege defense. The Crimson Fists don't necessarily have that to the nth degree as like a specialty that they actively pursue, but they are still Sons of Dorn, right? So, something to keep in mind for collecting models or, trying to pick a certain class or whatever to go with. It's just really nice that their symbol is just like the Crimson Fist symbol. So wherever that pops up, wherever a fist pops up, you can just make it red and you have yourself some extra MacGuffin for your Crimson Fists. They are a very cool chapter. I have nothing against them. I feel like you don't see as many Crimson Fists these days in terms of like fans or players in comparison to back in the day several editions ago. I could be mistaken. I don't know. I just feel like the Crimson Fists don't come up nearly as much as they used to, and it could just be the fact that I'm not looking for it, right? So I won't know. But they are a very cool chapter, and that's why I was surprised that, wow, they're not in Space Marine 2. Interesting. So let's rectify that, and thus here we are. They are capable on the defense as well as the attack. They are kind of zealous in their ways, but not fanatical to the point of going on a glorious last stand. On top of all the typical things you expect Loyalist Astartes to, have disdain for, they have extra special disdain for the orcs because of, Bryn's World. Makes total sense. In any case, there's a lot more to the Crimson Fist lore. I just want to kind of cover and skip over the surface at a glance style on the kind of the big stuff to kind of get yourself in the right mindset. Survivors, capable, cool looking, all of that is the Crimson Fist. And they have one of the more iconic images. I used it in the beginning of this video. It's kind of that last stand kind of artwork where you have the sergeant with the power fist raised in the air and the standard and a bunch of Marines standing around firing at the everywhere because, the enemy is everywhere. It's a very iconic image. I believe it was a 3rd edition Space Marine Codex cover. I could be mistaken. In any case, the Crimson Fists were kind of a big deal to the point of being on the cover of the Space Marine Codex, right? It wasn't always Ultramarines. There were some other Codex covers as well. Alrighty, with that said, thanks so much for tuning in and stopping by. Let me know your thoughts on the Crimson Fists. Have you tried them out in Space Marine 2 in terms of making up your own? And what class did you use? In any case, until next time, take care.